Yellowjackets is a show that totally gave what it promised. The suspense factor was absolutely awesome. The performances, the story, the writing, all was spot on. The finale, however, left us with more questions than answers. In this video, we'll explain the ending of its first season. We'll also talk about some of the theories circulating the internet about the upcoming season 2 of the series, so stick around. First up, what's up with that creepy shrine below Taisa's house? In one of the most incredible reveals of the show, right at the end, we finally found out what happened to Taisa's dog. His head had been cut off to make a super scary shrine underneath the house. It also had her son's terrifying doll and that dreaded drawing too. Now, did Taisa do it while awake or while sleepwalking? Also, the camera showed her spine-chilling grin too. Maybe Taisa made the shrine so she'd win the election? Next up, is Lottie alive? So this was the last twist we got to see. We saw that Lottie's probably alive and well, and it doesn't end there. She seemed to be running an entire cult that was formed as a result of their time in the wilderness. In the last episode, Natalie was almost about to end things, but she was kidnapped by a group that seemed to be cult followers. It was then shown that Travis's bank account had been emptied. This kind of points to the conclusion that Lottie or some people in her group could be behind it all. We also saw that Misty and Van joined Lottie in some sort of ritual in the wilderness. So is Misty a double agent in the present storyline? Further up, Jackie's death was shown. It was hinted throughout the season that Jackie probably never made it out of the wilderness since we never saw her in the present storyline, and Shauna attended that weird birthday/memorial with Jackie's family too. But the end of Shauna was very brutal. The girls just kicked her out of the cabin, which is why she had to go sleep outside. She died overnight because of the snowfall. This also signifies a huge turning point in the group's dive into madness too. So the story was super awesome, but we didn't really get too many answers. But that's never stopped us before from coming to our own conclusions. Let's now talk about some of the theories making the rounds about the first season of Yellowjackets so far. Maybe some of these will be proven true by the second season. Moving on, Taisa is a member of Lottie's cult. Some people are totally convinced of it. The question is if Taisa is aware of it or not. The shrine thing really goes in favor of this viewpoint. The theory goes that even though they tried to show otherwise, Taisa was brainwashed into the cult later. It ties in if you think about how it showed Lottie's first offering and later ended with that shrine in the room. Lottie, being a cult leader, could totally do with a political connection. With Taisa, she's got a state senator under her control, and maybe Lottie was also getting a little funding from Travis's bank account too. Additionally, Taisa was paying for Nat's rehab, but as she gets close, she's kidnapped. Maybe that was done because she'd been watching Taisa closely this whole time. Tai's expression on her election win can be interpreted in a lot of ways too. One such guess is that Taisa knowingly sacrificed her dog to the Antler Queen to make it happen. And we all know that Lottie is the queen in question. This could be a major step in linking Tai to the cult. Jonathan Lisco, the writer and producer, shared a personal interpretation that the creepy smile after winning the election is the first we see of Tai's alter ego finally making it to the surface. He went on to explain that it's terrifying because now she has more power than ever. So maybe she's thinking about using the dark powers to work in her favor going forward. Further up, either Van's working with Taisa or for Taisa. So if you don't believe that Taisa put that shrine underneath her house herself, this is the theory you'd be interested in, because if she didn't do it, then who did? Some folks think it was Van, who was also Tai's girlfriend in the past in 1996. The theory goes that adult Van has been following Tai around her entire life, and that she has been doing things along the way to help her. Not the obvious nice things, but the dark creepy things. Maybe Tai is only coming into her other personality right now because of political stress and not because of any other reason. Up next, Shauna is the one who wrote Jackie's diary. Fans thought that Jackie was alive until we got to see the scene of her death in the final episode. This theory was backed by Jackie's diary, which had pop culture references that happened way after the plane crashed. Like in the entry called "Movie Character I Would Be," Jackie wrote that she'd be Rose Dawson from the Titanic, and that came out at about the end of 1997. She'd also written that she'd be Bring It On's Torrance Shipman, and that wasn't around until 2000. After the showrunners confirmed for sure that Jackie was gone, fans have theorized that maybe Shauna just kept updating the diaries. Maybe it was a way that she vented out her survivor's guilt. What's more, the opening sequence of the show actually happens in 2021 instead of 1996. With two timelines that have got heaps of mystery, Yellow Yellowjackets keep us guessing all throughout. The pit girl is right at the beginning of the show, and it was assumed outright that this was all happening at the end of the wilderness timeline. It showed that the group had resorted to cannibalism because of the lack of food. But this assumption was never confirmed. Now that we know that Lottie has her own cult, it's a possibility that the girl in the pit is actually from the present timeline and is sacrificing another girl to their queen. A really far out speculation is also that it might be Shauna's daughter, Callie. Now for the theory that Lottie is possessed. Here's a major question we've got to know the answer to. Is there anything supernatural going on, or can everything that's happening be explained through themes of trauma and mental illness? This one kind of goes in favor of the supernatural scenario and says that Lottie might be possessed. Maybe she has run out of her medication, but that only holds up if you think that everything in it can be explained. But if that's not the case, then maybe Lottie has been influenced by some dark forces and is now under their spell. The darkness could be coming from the woods or from something that's between the girls' group. After all, it was kind of known that Lottie didn't know French in the 5th episode of the show, but we saw her saying something in French in the last episode. She said, "Versez le sang, mes beaux amis," which can be translated as "shed blood, my beautiful friends." Coming up next, either Javi is dead or he is Adam. The last we see of Javi is when he is running to the forest right after everyone's exposed to the psychedelic shrooms that Misty collected. So in terms of what happened to him after that, fans seem to be leaning two ways. The first is that Javi is dead. The logic of this one is pretty airtight. We saw that Jackie had frozen to her death after a single night out of the cabin, so it's also likely that Javi ended up facing similar circumstances. Now, if that happened, his body would have been found. No? But as far as we know, that hasn't happened. This leads us to the other option on the table. Adam in 2021 is Javi from 1996. That's the guy that Shauna starts an affair with, and it ends with him being killed by her too. And if Javi is really Adam, then we've got more questions we're gonna need answers to. Like, why is he never mentioned in the present timeline even after Travis dies? And also, if he wasn't found at the Doom Coming, then how did he even survive? But the common things are that both Javi and Adam were into art, and he also had a connection to the 1996 Shauna too. Next up, Adam and Misty were working together. Much like Jackie's diary theory, this one is also a case of something being off, which probably came from either the prop department or because the writing missed a clue. In a moment that could be missed if you just blinked, some fans were quick enough to point out that the plate number on Adam's car is the same one as the one on Misty's car. If it wasn't a production accident, then it clearly points to Adam and Misty working together. But why would they do such a thing? Well, we couldn't tell ya. What's more, Misty is most likely a serial killer. Well, you guys saw what happened, right? This doesn't exactly stretch the imagination. She had a bunker under her basement this whole time, and not like a cute little thing, but the sort that you could use to keep kidnapped victims. Throughout the season 2, Misty continued down a really messy path, and it just kept getting more and more chaotic. And it wasn't like she was bothered by it or was going through something. No, she was unfazed as she did them. She definitely had some experience when it comes to murder. The red flags sort of point to that conclusion in a pretty straight line. We wouldn't be surprised if she was revealed as one in season 2. Finishing up with Shauna's baby may have suffered a terrible fate. Yeah, it's kinda hard to even say this one out loud, but the theory goes that the girls may have eaten Shauna's baby. Right at the end of the 1996 plot, we see that Shauna's pregnant, and the present timeline just doesn't make any mention of said baby at all. A million things could have happened to it in the wilderness. It's even a possibility that the baby survived, and we just haven't been updated about it yet, or Shauna gave it up for adoption later. But here's another thing we know about the girls in Yellowjackets. They became cannibals out in that wilderness, so this is one of those theories that takes the fact to the absolute extreme. That's all for today from our side. Have you got any juicy Yellowjackets theories for the upcoming season 2? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you in the next one.